All right, I truly believe this conversation may blow your mind. The woman we're about to talk to worked on shipwrecks around the world, but found herself in a position to turn the education world on its head. Now, this conversation is going to help you prioritize also what's important and turn it into something with impact, which I know drives so many of you who listen to this podcast. So get ready to be inspired and think critically about what's possible. Let's go. Welcome to cbuzz, the award-winning podcast presented by the Columbus Chamber of Commerce and proudly recognized as Columbus's very first business-focused podcast. We are so excited to bring you this show in partnership with Capital University. I'm Michaela Hunt, your host and brand journalist for cbuzz, where we really dive into those compelling stories of the leaders who shape the culture here in Central Ohio and our vibrant business community. Now, today we're broadcasting from the Convergent Media Center at Capital University, where, as you know, they have a dynamic space where students and faculty collaborate on music, film, creative writing, and digital media projects. We're really grateful to share these incredible stories with you from this very innovative hub. We want to welcome today our guest, Dr. Annalies Corbin, who is the founder and CEO of the PAST Foundation. Annalies is the chief goddess and CEO of the PAST Foundation, which I love. And she founded this in the year 2000, to bridge scientific research with classrooms and communities. After teaching at East Carolina University, she dedicated herself fully to PAST, expanding it from a single school partnership to a national leader in transforming education. Under her leadership, PAST has reached more than 2.3 million. Yes, that's right. 2.3 million students and 20,000 teachers across 42 states, fostering hands-on learning through the PAST Innovation Lab and professional development programs. In 2019, she launched the Learning Unboxed podcast to challenge traditional education models and explore innovative ways to prepare for the future of work. And as of the last year, she has out a book that you can pick up too, Hacking School: 5 Strategies to Link Learning to Life. Annalies, welcome to cbuzz. I feel so fortunate to have you here after reading that intro.
It's so exciting to be here. Thank you so much, Michaela. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It is. And this is like second nature to you because you have your own podcast.
True.
We've had a chance to work together in the past, but never really had a chance to sit down and chat for a bit of time. So I'm ready for it. And I think you have some great things to teach and share with our listeners.
100%.
So you really have had a fascinating journey. And I know this from studying up on you a bit, from maritime studies, which I'm so curious about, to reimagining education. So I guess I'm going to start there. I would love to know a little bit more about the PAST Foundation. I know a bit about it, but I want you to tell our listeners about it. The vision that sparked you founding it, and also what brought you to it from maritime studies. I was so curious about that.
So there's a direct connection. It seems really obscure, but the reality is I'm an applied research scientist by training. So my background and my work historically had been in the study of underwater archaeology, right? And so that's pretty obscure. It's like underwater basket weaving, you know. I get all the jokes, trust me. But the reality is it's an amazing and fascinating field, and it's one that people really love because it's not overly accessible for obvious reasons. And in that work as an applied research scientist, the thing that I loved the most was working with the public who were really, really interested and they were intrigued. Kids, adults, people from the communities where we were working on shipwrecks around the world would come out in droves. They were curious. They asked questions. They wanted to understand the science, which is incredibly complex in a field where we have to strap on tanks and, we can't breathe underwater and all the scientific equipment. And what I learned from that in partnership with my growing up background as the child of K-12 educators, my parents, aunts, uncles, friends, you name it, everybody around me were teachers. That was the world I grew up in. And so for me, the combining of the real-world scientific research and the way that people got jazzed and curious and excited about that, with that background and understanding how critically important the learning and the experiences we have when we are young are life-changing. And then add that into the fact that as a university professor, myself and my colleagues in other applied research sciences around the world, chemists, physics, biologists, museum people, you name it, we were really having a lot of conversations in the early 2000s, late 90s, about what was going on with the students that were coming into the university. So the students that were our undergrads or our graduate students or in their first early careers in scientific research labs around the world. Really smart individuals. They could take the GRE or the MCAT or whatever test you needed with the best of them. But they were lacking some real fundamental skills and some life experiences that at that point in their educational journey we anticipated that they should have. And so we collectively, as a group of very diverse applied researchers, started asking the question, where's the disconnect? We know all these amazing young people are capable, but there's something going on here. Business and industry, of course, is going to blame post-secondary. Post-secondary is going to blame K-12. K-12 is going to blame family and community. And bottom line was nobody was owning the problem.
No accountability for it.
No, none whatsoever. And so we collectively came together, a group of these applied research scientists from a variety of places. I don't know if I got lucky or I just got the short straw, but I was tasked to say, hey, why don't we take this idea and you run with it and let's see what would happen if a different group of people ask a different group of questions to try to solve for this problem. And the PASS Foundation was born of that.
You can't get better than a scientist asking those. I think about testing hypotheses. And you're asking questions that people hadn't asked and weren't ready to give the answer to of what they thought they might have known from their angle. Wow. So this started with one single school partnership. Is that right?
Well, the first years of the PASS Foundation, I was still a university professor. In fact, the first 5 years that the organization existed, we all had our day jobs. I mean, nobody knew if this was going to do something, right? It was an intellectual query, honestly, in the early years. So we would come together, we would craft some crazy, amazing global project, scientific research project, and then we would all go back to our day jobs. And we did that for a number of years. And ultimately, the decision was made, we're onto something here. We are sparking the imagination of young people and adults alike. So what would happen if we decided to do that full time? But to do that and to be willing to leave my university and other people to join in that endeavor, we realized that to truly test our ideas that we had formulated in those first 5 years about how and why people love learning, we needed a lab. We needed a place where we could test those theories. We needed actual students and actual teachers. And about that time, here in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah, because I was going to ask why Columbus, Ohio, from East Carolina University.
So in Columbus, Ohio, this grand thing was starting to bubble up. And I bet you even remember this happening. This idea between Ohio State University and Battelle and a bunch of education partners to create something that they ultimately labeled the Metro School. And it was this idea that what would happen if we really took the notions around STEM and STEM careers and STEM education and really applied learning, and we meshed it all together and we created this public school endeavor that was going to be different. Well, it was an idea on paper when I got involved with it and sat down with some of the original visionaries of that and said, well, what if a whole group of research scientists and anthropologists showed up in the mix of what you're already planning to sort of on the backside, watch it, study it, ask questions, and design endeavors, if you will, for the students and the teachers and the community to engage in with the school. So that's exactly what we did. They were like, great, when can you move in?
And so that is how it happened.
That was how it was born.
One of my dear colleagues' son goes to Metro, and it has been an incredible experience. So I have the story of how it's all pieced together because you impact states across the country and millions of students at this point. Yep. But you have this background from here in observing Metro and seeing what works and what doesn't. Is that?
Yeah, we did that work. We helped literally, at the ground level. So we helped design the criteria for how an educator would become a Metro teacher in those really early days. We were there as the construction in the original building was happening, and we were interviewing teachers, and we were part of the process of families and students interviewing all of us about, should I come to this school? Because nobody knew what it was.
Right.
And it was just this crazy idea, and we got involved in the early policy stuff that ultimately ended up in House Bill 119, which made it possible to legislate STEM and STEM schools. So Ohio is the very first state in the nation. So again, why Ohio? Why Columbus? Because Columbus is a cool place. There is so much happening here and so much potential and just incredible thinkers. It was the place we wanted to be.
So incredible opportunity, but there's also early challenges on with this kind of thing and building momentum. What were some of those for you?
One of the biggest ones was this idea of we don't get it. We don't understand STEM. In those first early years, it was all about stem cells and stem cell research. This idea that this stood for science, technology, engineering, and math, right? From an educational standpoint, this was completely new. Add to that nobody understood what PAST Foundation was. PAST is an acronym as well, because why not? We love those in education. That stands for Partnering Anthropology with Science and Technology. And so, the Metro School shows up in 2006, but PAST was started in 2000. So, a good 6 years prior to, we were already thinking about the intersection of humans, that's the anthropology piece, and science and technology, and how did those things come together? And so our early work was really around being enmeshed and understanding how humans become part of a community, really.
What moment or milestone then down the road made you realize that PAST was truly making this impact that you had envisioned originally?
So over the years, we worked with lots and lots of educators. And the majority of people who go into the field of education is because they loved learning themselves as a kid. And they love to watch kids really sort of engage in that endeavor. But we would meet educators, or we would go to communities or schools where people would say, our kids can't do that for a whole host of reasons, right? It was never nefarious, just to be perfectly clear, but it was just a disconnect between understanding the whole individual and what an individual might be sparked on or curious about or capable of, and the static environment that has been traditional education in our country and other parts of the world for a really long time. And so when those people would say, Johnny or Jamal, that, he can't do that. He's a troublemaker, or he sleeps in class. He's just really not that kid. And then for us to take that same kid that the adults in the room were saying, not so much, take them into the field, give them a hands-on experience, and watch them become the leaders in that moment, that's everything.
And so that's when you knew.
Absolutely.
You saw that coming out of the work you were doing.
And we see it over and over again. So many kids.
PAST has this approach to linking learning to life, which is both bold and practical at the same time, right? What does that phrase mean to you personally, linking learning to life?
It's the context, right? It's the why am I doing this? Why do I need algebra?
I hear that question a lot at home anymore. Why do I need geometry?
Exactly. Because we can link it to the life you're going to live and the things that you're going to do. That's what that is all about, and why it's so incredibly important, because literally there's nothing we can't throw on the table and say we can learn something from this that's going to have application down the road if we just take it out of its traditional context and play with it a little bit.
What are teachers through PAST learning about their approach to the students who aren't engaging with regular classroom curriculum? What does that look like? How have you guys changed the way they approach their craft?
So largely we say stop doing the regular curriculum, right? Like we need to, bottom line is one of the things that I get asked all the time is about how do we fix the broken education system? And, I tell people all the time, and I certainly on my own podcast on Learning Unboxed, we talk about this all the time. The education system is not broken.
Doesn't need fixed.
It's functioning as designed 150 years ago. It was an engineered system. It's working the way it was designed. The problem's not that it's broken, it's that it's obsolete. It's no longer relevant to who we are and what we need today. And yet we are constantly tossing money and fixes and the new great program idea, trying to patch it back together again so we can get just a little bit further down the road. And it's not what kids need. And that's the reason they're so disengaged, right? When you look at all the statistics about the rampant absenteeism that's going on, it's a huge chronic problem right
crisis,
now, right?
Yeah.
The majority of the kids will tell you it's because I can't figure out what it has to do with me. It's not because they don't want to learn, and it's not because they don't actually even want to be at school.
They can't connect it to their life.
Yeah, sometimes it's safety. Sometimes there are legitimate other reasons that come into play, but the majority of the kids will tell you is, I don't get what it has to do with me. It's boring.
And that's so disheartening when you know there's more to it, and that's what you all are teaching. It sounds like these educators in terms of connecting.
It is.
For the kids.
We're all about, what is it that you need to teach? Okay. Let's grab the curriculum that you have to teach and let's reimagine it. Let's bring your strengths as the educator, your authentic self. Let's make sure that there's agency in the work that you're doing so that kids feel like they have a say in what's going on because they've got so much to contribute.
So do school districts come to you as clients? How does this work?
They do sometimes. So, the way that we work, it's grants. We lots of grants. We work with different state departments of education. We work federally as well.
Okay.
But a lot of times school districts are like, we want to do something different. We've tried lots of things. It's not working. Let's go and work with the PAST Foundation.
What role do you think community and industry partnerships play in transforming the education system?
It's the single biggest piece. So I would argue that industry needs to be the one leading the educational transformation, right? At the end of the day,
I think it's a good argument.
What are we preparing kids for?
Right. Where are they going? What are they going to do next?
What is our ultimate outcome? We want to have happy, healthy, fully formed citizens that can go into the world and make a contribution through work and service. If that's our ultimate goal,
industry has to get involved.
They have to be right at the table.
How do you do that when you're working in other states? So Columbus is where things happen. We know that, and engaging industry on things like this is an easy sell, having lived here and lived in a couple of other states. But how do you do this in other states when you have clients come to you or these groups or agencies, government agencies come to you? How do you get industry involved?
It's the exact same way. Bottom line is you go into a community and you have to understand that place. And that's where the sort of anthropology comes in, right? Once again, we are all about understanding humans' connections to the world, their community, the environment, all the different pieces and parts. It doesn't matter what state or what country we're working in. The first thing you have to do is understand the community in which the work has to ultimately reside. And so that means getting to know the community. It means understanding who all their partners are. It understands where the workforce gaps are. And those are going to be the conversations that you then help the local community lead. I don't need to have the conversation with the industry leaders. I need to teach you, the local community, how to form those partnerships and make them meaningful, invite those people to the table, and have them want to be there with you for the long haul.
As I'm taking this all in and asking you questions based on what you're sharing with me, I'm wondering, how do you balance vision-driven leadership in what you're doing with the day-to-day realities of running a growing global organization, from what it sounds like, if you're working in other countries?
It's not easy. It's not, and it's certainly not easy right now, right? To be a nonprofit in the education space in the U.S. right now is very difficult. It's a difficult space to be in. And so ultimately, the task is to say, what are the most pivotal and important things that we're working on? Who needs to be on that journey with us, and how do we catalyze in the individual moment so that we can focus on the things that are important and we can let go of the things that are not, and we can make sure that we are surrounding ourselves, not just as an individual leader. Certainly I do that, but more importantly, as an organization, with other organizations, entities that have all the skills that we do not. I always say the P in PAST is the most important letter in the whole acronym, and that stands for partnering. And we do not do anything, not a single project by design, do we ever do it alone.
It is a changing world. It is. We're in the age of information, and there's so much that changes on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. What lessons have you learned about leading through this kind of change, especially in the fast evolving landscape of technology and where it meets education?
Primarily to encourage people to stop being afraid.
Right? I'm curious to hear what you have to say about this. I've had some conversations lately about this with tech.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things is these are tools. Humans are human because we can use tools. It's one of the defining factors of humanity. So we need to stop being afraid of the tools and the opportunity that they bring. We need to be curious about them. We need to understand what they can do and what they can't do. We need to understand what the potential limitations and the potential downfalls are of these things. And we need to understand, too, that we're preparing kids to be technologically advanced in ways that we right now can't even really imagine because technology is shifting so fast. We are preparing kids in K-12 for jobs that do not exist today. We're talking about AI, every day, all day long, everywhere, right? Which is great. But in 10 years, are we still talking about AI or are we talking about something else? So, part of it is just to help people understand that this landscape is going to shift over and over again. So what are we focusing on?
I heard recently, and I wonder based on this part of our conversation, that the fear is somewhat generational and that we have to be more educated, the boomers, the Gen Xers, so we can support these kids who are going to be doing jobs that we can't even imagine. So we need to educate ourselves and be more comfortable and less fearful.
Absolutely. And we have to trust. That's the other thing. We need to get to a level of trust with the young people that are ultimately going to be taking those jobs, crafting the policies around these technologies, because don't lose sight of it. It's not going to be you and I crafting the policies.
No.
It's going to be that kid who's in the 7th grade right now, right? So
yeah, my 13-year-old at home. Yes,
exactly,
yes.
100%. So we need to help them build the skills, the confidence, the question asking, the wherewithal to own their space in the world, so that when it comes time to be great decision makers, they have the confidence in their skill set to say, I can in fact do this thing. And I can do it on behalf of not just my generation, but all those that I'm caretaker of. Because we want them to pass that exact same ethos on to their children.
It's so interesting because I feel like this conversation isn't happening in mainstream media. I think about what I see about tech and AI in mainstream media right now, and they're not talking about the fear that it's had and the impact that it's going to have on kids. They're just talking about the fear and the taking over of jobs. But there is so much more to this conversation.
There is. And the reality is, yes, AI is in fact going to take jobs that are appropriate for AI to take. It is no different than we had the exact same arguments. I remember when the internet came to be. So I'm dating myself, right?
I'm right there with you.
But the reality is, everybody was making the same argument. Oh my gosh, this internet thing, it's going to be the end of mankind. It's utter destruction, right? We're going to be able to look something up and, we don't need to use the encyclopedia anymore, so on and so forth. And the reality is, yes, and the internet did lots of things for us, and it changed the way we lived our lives. It changed the way that we worked. Well, AI is going to do that exact same thing. But the same thing that happened with the internet and so many other technologies, we can go way back in time, right? The steam engine, we can go further back in that, the printing press, so on and so forth. Yes, these things shift, but they create new opportunities and new endeavors. There will be way more jobs created as a result of AI taking over menial jobs. There's going to be more complex jobs that AI can't do. And there's going to be something else that's going to replace AI.
Which is wild to think about, since we talk about it all day, every day, all day long. Past has impacted millions, yet you've said there's still much more to do. So what's next on the horizon?
So we're really working right now on thinking about that next iteration. One of the things that's really interesting, and we've all talked about sort of the result of COVID, especially in the world of education, and how it brought so much to the forefront. But one of the things that it did in a positive way is it taught us that we can learn in a variety of environments. Like, we can really learn. We can also have some elements that don't work so well, but the reality of it is it helped us see that learning doesn't have to be just in a brick and mortar building. And it doesn't just have to be between the hours of 8:15 and 2:30, right? That learning can be an all day, every day, everywhere endeavor. And so our work is really around sort of helping our traditional education system start to pull in those elements and say, look, because at the end of the day, we cannot fully reimagine the idea of school because we function inside of a system. Lots of policies and things like that have to shift before we can do really, really radical things. And we're seeing some of that. But we should be able to influence and infiltrate, if you will, within that traditional system, ways that allow kids to embrace the things that they're excited about. So we're doing a lot of things with microschools being embedded in bigger environments. We're doing lots of things with really thinking about pathways that will allow students really early on to explore and experience a potential career and then be able to say, I don't really like that thing. I'm going to go try this thing over here, and to put the learning into context. So we're doing a lot of that kind of work right now.
Has anyone ever asked you to take on school start times?
I get a lot of school calendar, a lot of school bell, a lot of those things.
Sometimes I'm wondering, the kids' brains at that time of morning, especially when I think about junior high and high school students, I'm really challenged by that. I was just curious, joking, but curious.
And there's great science that says you're 100% correct. The fact that we have high school kids trying to learn something at 7:30 in the morning is not doing anybody any favors.
But we're in a 150-year-old education system, and that's the challenge. But PAST is addressing challenges in that system and trying to innovate, which I love. Okay, so one of the reasons we have conversations like the one we have today with you on cbuzz is because we really believe in that continued personal and professional development, and that it's one of the most valuable aspects as a leader in business. So I would love to hear right now, on the day we're doing this podcast, what's influencing you lately? It could be a podcast, it could be a book, it could be a show, maybe something with a group you're working with. But tell me, Annalies, like right now, what is really lighting you up, lighting that fire?
I'm going to go back to AI. I am a techie girl. I love new technologies. I love playing with them. I love exploring with them. I love trying to break them. And so I am really, really jazzed about all of the potential that it has. And so I spend a lot of time playing with it, inserting stuff into it, extracting things from it.
Do you have a favorite platform? Because there are so many out there at this point. Is there, when you're extracting, when you're playing with it, is there one that you really interests you that you would suggest that maybe people haven't heard about?
We like to use Perplexity. And we use Perplexity because Perplexity incorporates so many different AI tools into a single platform.
I just used it for the first time in the last couple of weeks.
We love it very much, right?
So, I see why.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just it has a lot of opportunities to be able to close down the system. So, I mean, one of the things that people really sort of need to embrace as it relates to AI is to recognize that it's not perfect. It doesn't know everything. It only knows what we give it. It knows what it's been trained on. Right? We have this incredible opportunity to extract that understanding from it and then to reinforce and reinform.
I love that. And so that is something that you're just jazzed about and is really it's inspiring you in your creative process.
Absolutely. I just think about all the things I could do with it. I think about all the things I could learn from and with it, and all the things I can teach it. That gets me excited.
And I see a headline, because I'm with you, like the 13 prompts you need to know to make the end of your year easier. Yes, send me whatever that sheet is, and I want to look at it to see if it really will do that, because anything that can make what we do a little bit easier so it frees up brain space to be creative and innovative on our own, I think is just such a positive.
Absolutely. Anything that we can take off of our plate so that we can do something good for the world instead.
Yeah.
I'm all about that.
Yeah. I could talk to you for a long time. I'm so grateful that you stopped by, especially since it had been a minute since I'd seen you, and just please continue doing the great work that you're doing and making such a difference around the world.
Thank you so much, Michaela. Thrilled to have been here, and I'm just really, really excited about all that's coming.
Yeah, so glad to have you here in Columbus. If you enjoyed these insights on linking learning to life and reimagining what's possible in education, I want to let those of you who are listening know where to go to get more information about the PAST Foundation. You can visit www.pastfoundation.org. That's www.pastfoundation.org. foundation.org. And if you enjoyed today's episode, we would love it if you would take a moment to rate us, review us on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you're listening to your podcast. That would be fantastic. Your feedback really helps others discover the show and ensures we keep delivering the stories that matter most. cbuzz is brought to you in collaboration with Capital University. We could not do this without them. So grateful for their students, faculty, and staff, and the invaluable support they bring in bringing this podcast to life. Once again, I'm Michaela Hunt, your host for cbuzz, the Columbus Chamber of Commerce's premier business podcast, and we can't wait to share more inspiring stories like Annalies is with you in our next episode.